Still watching Business Live with me, Coil. Let's move on to tonight's big stories. The Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, says the city within the last 3 years has witnessed a relatively slow rate of depreciation from over 18% to 8.7%. According to the Vice President, this is twice as stable under the current administration as compared with the previous administration. This, according to the Vice President, indicates being able to arrest a rapid rate of depreciation and currently making the city the best performing currency against the dollar in the world. He was speaking at a town hall meeting and results fair in Kumasi.
The exchange rate is simply the price of one currency relative to other currencies. So the cedi to the dollar. At the basic level, it is influenced by factors such as the relative demand and supply for foreign currency. It is a price, just like the price of any good or service. How much of one currency does one need to give up to get the unit of another currency? And generally, it reflects the purchasing power of one currency relative to another. Countries have a choice between two basic types of exchange rate regimes. You can have a fixed exchange rate regime, which is one which is administratively fixed by the government or the monetary authority, with fiscal and monetary policy deployed to maintain the fixed exchange rate regime. So the CFA countries, for example, operate a fixed exchange rate regime. In practice, countries will devalue or revalue their currencies in line with their fundamentals. The other type of exchange rate regime is the floating exchange rate regime, where the exchange rate is determined by the forces of demand and supply. Ghana operates a floating regime or a managed floating regime, and for that reason, in Ghana, we can or should never expect that the exchange rate will be fixed. We are not operating a fixed exchange rate regime in Ghana. It will fluctuate depending on the demand and supply. What policymakers can do is to try to control the rate of depreciation or appreciation of the currency through sound policies. In the context of a floating exchange rate regime, therefore, arresting the depreciation of a currency can only mean slowing down the rate of depreciation or stopping the rapid and volatile depreciation of the currency. That is what arresting depreciation means in the context of a floating exchange rate regime. In general, there is a direct relationship between higher inflation, especially non-food inflation, and the exchange rate appreciation or depreciation. And if you look at the table that is here, it tells you fundamentally what determines an exchange rate in an economy is largely driven by inflation differentials. Those are fundamentals. Factors can happen in the short run to affect the currency, but whenever you have higher inflation relative to the currency you are dealing with, you will have higher depreciation. When your inflation lowers, you will have lower depreciation. And this is what we are seeing in this graph. So, with this background, how has the cedi performed under the leadership of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo in the last 3 years? The answer is very simple. You look at this table, which looks at the average rate of depreciation of the cedi since 1992. Between 1993 and 1996, first term of the Fourth Republic,
the Vice President also reiterating at that event that the banking sector cleanup has saved over 7,000 jobs and over 4 million depositors by merging all 9 struggling banks into Consolidated Bank of Ghana. Employees, he said, of collapsing banks have been re-employed whilst depositors continue to receive their deposits. The Vice President said the previous government avoided the cleanup because of a lack of commitment. According to him, despite some challenges experienced initially, customer deposits continue to increase as confidence keeps rising.
Thanks to the Bank of Ghana's cleanup exercise and the government's decision to step in to provide financial support to ensure an orderly exit of the failed institutions, over 1 million depositors have had access to their deposits already, and over 7,000 jobs have been saved as a result of employees who have been taken on by the GCB or Consolidated Bank Ghana Limited or the receivers. Employees whose salaries and employee benefits had been unpaid by the defunct institutions have been paid or are being paid by receivers. Can you imagine what would have happened in this country if 4.6 million depositors had lost their deposits? Can you imagine what would have happened in this country if we had allowed this collapse for 4.6 million depositors to lose their deposits and over 10,000 individuals to have lost their jobs? The benefits of the banking sector cleanup exercise are evident for all to see. We now have a stronger and more resilient banking sector than ever before, and the deposits in the banking system have increased significantly as customers' confidence in the system has rebounded.
Staying on the 2020 results fair and town hall meeting in Kumasi a little while longer, because the Vice President says for the first time in 20 years, Ghana's economy has witnessed an unprecedented trade surplus for 3 years consecutively. He noted the improvement in trade surplus has enhanced the country's total international reserves as well as its net international reserves.
The results of the fiscal consolidation are evident, and the data shows that significant progress has been made to restore macroeconomic stability and economic growth. The growing confidence in the macroeconomy owes a lot to the prudent management of our public finances and monetary affairs over the last 3 years. To underpin fiscal discipline going forward, Ghana has for the first time in history passed into law a Fiscal Responsibility Act that limits the fiscal deficit in any year to a maximum of 5% of GDP and requires a positive primary balance to ensure debt sustainability. In addition to a Fiscal Responsibility Act, we established a fiscal council to provide oversight and advice on the implementation of fiscal policy. This has never been done in our history. So as a result of good fiscal discipline, the fiscal deficit on a cash basis has declined from 6.8% of rebased GDP in 2016 to 3.8% in 2018, 4.8% in 2019, below the fiscal rule of 5%. This, for the first time in a decade. So we are managing the public finances better. For the first time in a decade, ladies and gentlemen, Ghana recorded primary balance surpluses. Primary balance surplus means that our tax revenue exceeded government spending, excluding debt service payments, for 3 years in a row. This is for the first time in a whole decade of 10 years. For 3 years in a row, we've achieved primary budget surpluses for 3 years in a row. The primary balance surplus was 0.5% of GDP in 2017, 1.4% in 2018, and 0.9% in 2019. This compares with a deficit of 1.1% in 2016. And A positive primary balance is important because when you have a positive primary balance, it means that you are slowing down the rate of debt accumulation. That is what it means. A positive primary balance means you are slowing down the rate of debt accumulation. And that means you are really implementing good fiscal management and prudent fiscal management.
While the Vice President touting a good economy at the 2020 results fair and town hall meeting in Kumasi, of course, that will be subject for debate in the days to come. In other news, bulk oil distribution companies say they are now in a better position to push for fresh credit from banks as government has completed clearing the legacy debt owed these companies. George Afe has details on the payments and its impact on the operations.
The Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, the final tranche payment was made last month, bringing the total legacy debt cleared to a little over $1 billion. These debts, according to the Chamber, covered legacy debt accrued from July 2011 to June 2015, plus interest capped at March 2018. The payments were executed in the form of ESLA bonds to the Legacy Bonds Limited, a special purpose vehicle jointly owned by the Ghana Association of Bankers and the Chamber for redistribution to beneficiary banks and the petroleum service providers. Now let's do some breakdown in terms of how these payments were done. Based on a statement issued by the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, total amount of $445 million came in the form of payments from government. $219 million were in the form of Bank of Ghana bonds and $339 million in ESLA payments. Now, despite these payments, the companies, together with the Bank of Ghana, had waived or took a haircut of $432 million. Now, the commercial banks and the companies had decided on how they have to share the risk among all the players in the industry. For some, this payment will come as a big relief to commercial banks that had this delay impacting negatively on their operations, their loan books, and even the ability to make some commitment to their shareholders. It would also help improve the supply of petroleum products on the market and save those who were actually collapsing.
CEO of the National Pensions Regulatory Authority, Hayford Atakrofi, says the authority has given approval to the Social Security and National Insurance Trust to begin disbursement of Tier 2 funds collected on behalf of pensioners to their various private pension fund managers. The move forms part of implementation of the new Pension Regulatory Act, which gives private firms the mandate to hold Tier 2 funds. The Chief Executive made the disclosure to Joy Business when the authority paid a courtesy call on the Multimedia Group Limited in Accra.
The Social Security and National Insurance Trust, SNIT, will begin the disbursement process this year following approval by the NPRA to implement the new pension law. The disbursement has become necessary after 10 years of implementing the Tier 2 scheme, which matured last year. According to the Chief Executive of NPRA, Hayford Atakrofi, the funds will be paid to the respective private fund custodians per the guidelines of the new law.
All preparations are on the ground to make sure that those who retire this year get their benefits. SNIT will pay their Tier 1, which is the monthly pensions, and then their lump sum will be paid under the Tier 2. We also need to emphasize that people were working before the year 2010 and had made some contributions to SNIT. That will also be paid as part of their Tier 2 or their lump sum. We call that a pass
for it already.
Yeah, absolutely.
Given approval for it.
We have given approval for it. So this is the year that the decumulation is starting.
He also assured that despite the banking sector crisis, pension funds for retiring workers are secured.
In terms of what has happened in the past, no pension fund has been affected because pension funds are invested in a very peculiar way, which makes it safe in the sense that there's a clear investment guideline which determines proportions or percentages of pension funds and into which categories of assets that pension funds can be invested in. So pension funds are safe as far as investments are concerned. Yeah.
The NPRA congratulated the Multimedia Group Limited on its 25th year celebration.
Yeah.
The Chamber of Pharmacy Ghana says 12,000 pharmaceutical companies may collapse soon if the National Health Insurance Authority does not pay arrears owed its members. Chairman of the Chamber, Harrison Kofi Abutiate, says members of the Chamber owe banks in the billions and are compelled to lay off workers.
The Chamber for Pharmaceutical Companies says over 12,000 companies are owed money by the National Health Authority, which is virtually collapsing many businesses. The last time monies were paid by the NHIA was 2019 April. Sources close to the Chamber indicate the authority has been frantically making efforts to make sure this does not go out to the press.
We are actually forced to push what we are doing. Despite previous one-to-one meetings we've had with authorities, they know it, that this is something which has been going on, and always we've held back because of the nationalistic attitudes that we have. We don't want to create panic, unnecessary panic in the system.
The sources added the CEO of the NHIA will want a meeting with the Chamber to iron out issues by Monday.
Some of them are owing banks. The interest rates are going up, and they will have to pay these banks, no matter what the situation they find themselves. I don't think it's only the suppliers who are involved in this. I know the manufacturers too are involved. They are also going through the same problem, because if they manufacture and it cannot be taken, it means there won't be any transfer to the government and eventually to the final user.
Scientists at the Building and Road Research Institute is dissatisfied with the rate at which asphalted roads deteriorate few years after construction. Director at the Institute, Asensu Jembibi, laments most asphalted roads peel off just 2 years after construction because of lack of appropriate technological applications. In this regard, Mr. Jembibi has proposed the establishment of asphalt bitumen labs to adequately apply the right proportions of materials to ensure roads outlive their lifespan. He was addressing senior staff of the Institute during its 2020 in-house workshop.
Use of plastic waste on coated aggregates is an ongoing research. So I wouldn't jump to conclusion that we finished and that government should jump in and use plastic waste for road construction. No. As scientists, you need to be careful how you put your facts right. However, we believe that the road construction going on in the country in the past 5 years has been another disappointing issue for us, because look, 1985 to 1995 there was this Kumasi City Roads rehabilitation, and it was supervised by BRI, and the lifespan of these roads was 15 years, but from 1990 to 2019 2018 most of the roads were intact. So you realize that they have outlived 2 times the original design lifespan. What went wrong? That today we do asphalt, and under 2 years the asphalt is peeling off, the asphalt is eroding away. It's because we are not applying technologies right. And I believe that this is high time we need to go back. We have put on the table, we have sent proposals for the establishment of an asphalt bitumen laboratory to test the kind of asphalt that is coming and what we are using now. It's important. Other than that, we'll be spending money and it will be going waste. So it is something that BRI has done it before. Our predecessors did it, and I believe that we can do it. So, and there are stabilized materials that we can use to even improve. Now, the road-based material, most of them are not good. Clay. We need to stabilize this road-based material to be able to use them and make sure that our roads live long. There's one proposal I keep asking myself, that why can't we do this? Look at Kumasi to Accra Road. It's about 285 kilometers. As a country, let's decide. If you want a dual carriage, now, every year, Kumasi to Accra, let's say 40 kilometers. With 40 kilometers, 7 years, we will have a dual carriage from Kumasi to Accra. When vehicles are involved in accidents, the injuries are related to the head-on collisions. If we can avoid it, we can decrease the fatalities. So our road sector is something that we have to, because it's expensive. Now we are looking at alternative, concrete and asphalt. We need a blend so that we can maximize our resources.
It's been a great 25 years for us here at the Multimedia Group Limited. We are celebrating 25 years of media excellence, and the CEO of the National Food Buffer Stock Company has some words for us.
My good memories with Joy Business News is something that has always, put me to my toes. I remember very well when we started issues of warehousing and Joy Business were always with me. We went around to look at areas where we can actually implement this one district, one warehouse program, and also abandoned warehouses that can be rehabilitated. I see it as a great move from such a reputable media house, because that is the #1 tool of work for the planting for food and jobs. The storage is very, very important. I always remember them with that first assignment that took us to the field. And today, we are celebrating their 25th year anniversary, and we have a number of warehouses also being commissioned. I thank them so much, and I pray that after their 25th anniversary, we will go beyond warehousing and look at other areas of agribusiness. I'm also so much happy with their fair reportage of issues, especially of national concern.
All right, we are thankful, we are grateful for being with us these 25 years. Thanks for watching Business Live, sponsored by EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. There you go. If you have a moment, you can check it out. And we are back same time tomorrow. Goodbye.